Hello and welcome to the 5th episode of the Culture Club podcast. My name is Oscar Dalton. I'm a currency collector, amateur vexillographer, and lover of cultures from all around the world. If this is your first time listening, welcome, and I hope you'll learn something today. If you're coming back to the podcast, thank you so much for supporting it. Today's episode will be on Belarus. So, without further ado, let's get into the culture. The Republic of Belarus is a country in Eastern Europe. Belarus borders Russia to the east, Poland to the west, Ukraine to the south, and Lithuania and Latvia to the north. Belarus is completely landlocked, but has three main rivers crossing the nation: the Dnieper in the east, the Pripyat River near the southern border, and the Neman River coming from Lithuania. Belarus covers an area of 80,200 square miles, or 207,600 square kilometers. Most of their land is urbanized, but around 40% of Belarusian land is forested. Belarus is the 13th largest country in Europe. The demonym for Belarus is Belarusian, so someone from Belarus is called Belarusian. Belarus is slightly smaller than the American states of Colorado and Arizona. The official languages of the Republic of Belarus are Belarusian and Russian, with recognized minority languages being Polish, Ukrainian, and Yiddish. In Belarusian, Belarus is Belarusi, and in Russian it is Belarus. The population of Belarus is around 9.4 million people, giving it the 20th largest population in Europe. Around 85% of the Belarusian population identifies as ethnically homogeneous, having been born to two Belarusian parents. The biggest ethnic groups, besides Belarusian, are Russian, with 7.5% of the population, and Polish, with 3.1%. Around 48% of the Belarusian population are Orthodox Christians, and 41% are atheist or agnostic. 7.1% are Roman Catholic, and 3.5% belong to other religions. The capital city of Belarus is Minsk. This is also the only Belarusian city with a population over 1 million, with around 1.9 million people living in the city. There are two other Belarusian cities with a population over 100,000. The two cities are Borisov, with a population of around 147,000 people, and Salahorsk, with a population of around 103,000 people. The GDP, or gross domestic product, which is used to measure a nation's wealth, of Belarus is $200 billion, or $21,223 per capita. This makes Belarus the 66th wealthiest country on Earth. The Republic of Belarus has a HDI score of 0.823. The HDI scale measures the country's standard of living. This puts Belarus at 53rd in the world for standard of living. There are three UNESCO World Heritage Sites in Belarus: the Bilowieza Forest, the Mir Castle Complex, and the Struve Geodetic Arc. Belarus uses UTC+3, also known as Further Eastern European Time, Moscow Time, or Turkey Time. Belarusians drive on the right side of the road. Those are all the basic facts you need to know about Belarus, so let's get to the government. The Republic of Belarus is a unitary presidential republic. This basically means that the states don't have that much power, and a democratically elected president is the leader of the country. Although that's how it's supposed to work, the Belarusian government is very corrupt, and there's been one man running the country since 1994. Although the presidential election is usually corrupt, the elections in the National Assembly, the Belarusian equivalent to Congress, are usually fair and free. The National Assembly is bicameral, meaning there are two houses in the assembly. The upper house is called the Council of the Republic, and the lower house is the House of Representatives. The Council of the Republic has 64 members, 8 from each oblast and the capital Minsk, and 8 members appointed by the president. An oblast is basically the Belarusian equivalent to an American state, but oblasts don't get that much power. In the Council of the Republic, all 64 members are part of the government, or ruling coalition. There are 46 independents, 17 seats belonging to the Belarusian Communist Party, and 1 seat belonging to the Belarusian Liberal Democrat Party. The lower house of the National Assembly is the House of Representatives. There are 110 members of the House of Representatives, representing each of the 110 constituencies. There are 21 seats belonging to independents, 68 seats belonging to the Belarus Party, a party dedicated to preserving the Belarusian way of life, 11 seats belonging to the Belarusian Communist Party, 6 seats belonging to a nationalist party called the Belarusian Republican Party, 2 seats belonging to the Belarusian Patriotic Party, and 1 seat belonging to the Liberal Democrats, and 1 seat also belonging to the Belarusian Agrarian Party. The Belarusian election happens every 4 years, with the last one happening in 2019. They use the first-past-the-post voting system, which means that each person gets 1 vote for who they want to represent as president in the House of Representatives and in the Council of the Republic. They also get 1 vote to see who will lead them in their cities and towns. The current president of Belarus is disputed. The incumbent, corrupt Alexander Lukashenko, and the democracy advocate schoolteacher Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya. Tsikhanouskaya wants another less corrupt election, but no member of government is actually supporting her. There are 6 oblasts, or regions in English, of Belarus. The capital, Minsk, doesn't fall into any oblast and is its own special capital territory. This is different from the Minsk Oblast, which is a completely different region. These are the rankings of every oblast by population from first to last. The city of Minsk, the Brest Oblast, Gomel Oblast, Grodno Oblast, Mogilev Oblast, Minsk Oblast, and finally, the Vitebsk Oblast. The last 2 are interesting because Vitebsk and the Minsk Oblast are the top 2 oblasts in size. That's all you need to know about the government and subdivisions part of this episode. So let's get to the language. Even though there are 2 official languages of Belarus, Belarusian and Russian, I'm just going to talk about the Belarusian language, since I'm going to talk about the Russian language in the Russian episode. According to the UNESCO Atlas of World Languages in Danger, the Belarusian language is considered to be vulnerable. This is probably because many Belarusian families are starting to teach their children Russian as a first language because it's better for getting a high-level economic job. Belarusian is an official language in Belarus and parts of Poland, and is recognized as a regional language in Czechia and Ukraine. Belarusian is an Indo-European language. It evolved from Indo-European into Balto-Slavic, then East Slavic, until we eventually got the earliest form of Belarusian called Ruthenian. Other Eastern Slavic languages are Ukrainian, Russian, Rusian, and Northern Russian. I separated Standard Russian and Northern Russian because Northern Russian has a lot of Uralic influence. These languages are all very similar, so similar that even some linguists group Russian, Rusian, Northern Russian, and Belarusian together to form a Greater Russian language, and they theorize that all these languages are actually just dialects of Greater Russian. The Belarusian language uses the Cyrillic script, but it has been adapted to the Hebrew Abjad by Belarusian Jews, and in the 14th century, the Lipka Tatars, who lived there, created an Arabic Cyrillic hybrid language. There are 4 main dialects of Belarusian. The northeastern dialect is spoken in the northeast of Belarus, obviously, but it's also the main dialect spoken in Russia. The middle and southwestern dialects are basically just different dialects of Standard Belarusian, and is what most curriculums and language apps use around the world to teach students Belarusian. The final dialect, West Polesian, is spoken in southwest Belarus and most of Poland. That's all you need to know about the Belarusian language, so let's get on to the currency. Belarus uses the Belarusian ruble as its official currency. The ISO code of the Belarusian ruble is BYN, and the ISO number of the Belarusian ruble is 933. The subunit of the ruble is the kopyeka, and it is 1/100th of the ruble. This means that it takes 100 kopyeka to equal 1 ruble. The frequently used banknotes are the 5, 10, 20, 50, 100, and 200 ruble notes, with a relatively unused 500 ruble note also being in circulation. The frequently used coins of the Belarusian ruble are the 1, 2, 5, 10, 20, and 50 kopyeka coins, alongside the 1 and 2 ruble coins. There has actually been 3 Belarusian rubles. The first Belarusian ruble was directly after independence in 1992. After hyperinflation of the ruble in 2000, they switched to the second ruble, which ended in 2016 due to coin shortages. This brings us to the Belarusian ruble today. That's all you need to know about the Belarusian ruble, so let's talk flags. To start this flag segment off, as always, I will ask everyone listening to this that wants to learn more about the Belarusian flag to search these flags up as I'm talking about them, so you can get an actual visual representation of them. The Belarusian flag has a red and white ornamental pattern on the hoist, or left side, of the flag. There's a red band on the top 2/3 of the flag and a small green strip on the bottom third of the flag. There is no official explanation of this flag, but President Alexander Lukashenko says the red represents freedom and the green represents life. He gave no explanation for the ornamental pattern, but many people think it represents the vague what it means to be Belarusian. Belarus has no official coat of arms. There have actually been a lot of protests in Minsk because of the aforementioned presidential problem. The red and green flag today has been seen as a flag of Lukashenko's rule since he was the one that implemented it. Pro-democracy protesters and Chekmanoskaya supporters have started using the former red and white flag, which was used as a pro-independence flag at the end of Soviet rule and in the early years of independence before Alexander Lukashenko. That's all you need to know about the Belarusian flag, so let's talk about some food and music. The national dish of Belarus is draniki. Draniki is a thin potato pancake. The most well-known Belarusian dish, however, is borscht. Borscht is a traditional food of Belarus, Ukraine, and Russia. Borscht is a sour beet soup with a bone stock broth with sour cream on top. This is also sometimes mixed with meat and potatoes. This isn't a traditionally Belarusian dish, but I just found it really interesting. Did you know that there's a green borscht? It's pretty much the same thing as borscht, but instead of using beets, they use spinach. Back to Belarus, and some other popular dishes are kletsky, boiled flour balls filled with meat, zherek, a soup of bread and oats fermented in beer for 3 days with meat and garlic, usually served in a bread bowl, shikvarki, small fried pork fat, usually served with eggs. This is also known as Belarusian bacon. The top Belarusian music charts are pretty different from the American and English top songs. There's a confusing mix of English, Belarusian, German, and Russian, and strangely Vietnamese songs. That's all you need to know about Belarusian food and music, so let's talk about sports. The most popular sports in Belarus are skiing, ice hockey, gymnastics, and football, or soccer. Some famous Belarusian athletes are Dorma Dormacheva, 4-time Olympic gold biathlete, Vitaly Sherbo, who won 6 gold medals at the 1992 Barcelona Olympics in gymnastics, and Volha Mazaranak, a long-distance runner and racewalker. Belarus is a member of FIFA and UEFA. The top division of Belarusian football is the Belarusian Premier League, or Vysheshaya Liga. The Belarusian Premier League skyrocketed in popularity during the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. This was caused by many of the traditionally big leagues shutting down because of the COVID-19 pandemic, but the Belarusian Premier League not shutting down for 3 more months. The teams most well-known in Belarus are Shakhtar Sologorsk, Beit Borisov, Dynamo Brest, and Dynamo Minsk. The Belarusian Premier League has 16 teams. The top team qualifies for the Champions League first qualifying round, and the second and third place teams will qualify for the Europa Conference League second qualifying round when it actually is founded. The bottom 2 teams get relegated to the Belarusian First League, the second division of Belarusian football, and the third bottom team plays a 2-legged relegation playoff against the third place team from the Belarusian First Division. The loser over 2 legs is relegated, and the winner either stays in the league or gets promoted. Belarus is ranked 88th in the world according to the FIFA World Rankings. That's all you need to know about Belarusian sports, so let's talk about some Belarusian mythology. Myths. Belarusian mythology is very similar to Slavic and East Slavic early religion. Belarus is the last place where Slavic paganism still survives. Slavic paganism was actually the first official religion of Belarus until the 13th century, where Christianity was adopted and paganism was made illegal. The East Slavs believe in one main god that controlled multiple lesser gods. The supreme god's name is Divios. Eastern Slavs believe that Divios served Belobog and Chernobog, the creators of the universe. The more important lesser gods are the gods of the water, forests, fields, household, illness, luck, and ancestors. That's all there really is to know about Belarusian mythology and folklore, So let's get to the history of Belarus.
Загубите первого президента, это будет начало вашего конца. Вы всегда кто-то хочет новых выборов. За окно посмотрите. Танки и самолеты на взлете в 15 минут от наших границ. И это не зря.
That was the current disputed president of Belarus speaking, Alexander Lukashenko. So, anyway, the history of Belarus. The first Belarusian state was the Principality of Polotsk in the 9th century. In the 13th century, Belarus switched hands over to the Grand Duchy of Lithuania. The Grand Duchy of Lithuania was then ceded to the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, and during the 1795 partition of Poland, Belarus was annexed by Russia. During World War I, Belarus was captured by German troops. The Germans established the People's Republic of Belarus, which was short-lived. For the majority of the 20th century, Belarus was controlled by the Soviets until 1990, when they declared independence. That's how Belarus got to their present-day borders. Congratulations, you've made it to the end of today's episode. I learned a lot while researching and making this episode, and I hope everyone listening did too. It takes a lot of time and effort making this podcast, so if you're enjoying this or found it informative in any way, please like, subscribe, comment, or follow wherever you're listening. Stay tuned for next week's episode on Germany, and I'll see you next week.